Hey team, it's day 19. Hope you guys are doing great. I want to get into the 6 goals really quick, but then let's talk about insulin resistance today. I was ice fishing with my dad this weekend, and we're talking about his type 2 diabetes and how he's doing, and he's losing weight, so he looks really good. But insulin resistance is one that I remember talking to him about a long time ago. Now, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, right? So I have studied this a little bit, especially with my dad for the last almost 20 years having this. It's just, you have to know about this stuff, because one thing you'll find out is if your family members trust you or lean on you for information, you gotta either have a really good relationship with your dad's physician or your mom's physician or family physician, which I do. But in the same sense, you got to be a little knowledgeable about this, be able to answer some questions, but let his doctor and his healthcare professionals take care of him, which I have. But there are questions after that patient with type 2 diabetes gets out of the doctor's office. They literally, especially upon getting diagnosed, it's a deer in headlights. I mean, think about the time when you guys go to the doctor. When I go to the doctor, I absorb the majority of it, but if you have ever been told kind of some rough news about maybe it's a chronic disease, or, you have something you got to check out, after that, you really are just still trying to absorb that news. So diabetes is super complicated, but let's talk about insulin resistance, what causes it, after we get through our 6 goals. Now, I got to use red today, and the reason being is because use my mom's scale again, 226. I'm interested in the morning to see what I come in. Hopefully it's closer to that 224 mark, but you never know. I'm not going to really worry about it if it's not, but we'll see what happens. 2,070 calories, right near the bottom range of my calories. So I'm happy with that. 120 ounces, 6 20-ounce bottles of water. I got 7 hours of sleep all day. I say all day because I was at a fishing tournament all day. So from checking holes, dropping lines, up and down, all over. My hammies are screaming at me today from leaning over, jigging on. If you guys have been ice fishing before and you've been in a tournament and you have a father who isn't that mobile and camps there and jigs the entire time, and you help him bring in his fish. We did actually pretty decent, but didn't win. Those are tough when you got 550 teams. It's a big tournament, but it was fun. I worked a lot, but that was my activity for the day. Then protein, 219 grams of protein. So that was a little better than the day before. It was 255, kind of crazy. So here we go. Let's jump into insulin resistance. What is it, and why should we be worried about it? And why is it related to this whole weight loss journey or weight management or just lifestyle journey that we got to go on? So we did talk about mortality in the past. And when you're taking a look, just a patient with, I'm just going to say type 2 diabetes because insulin resistant leads to that, but let's throw out a statistic first. Patient with type 2 diabetes, 4 times more likely to get cancer, 4 times, I forgot the other one was, but much more likely for heart attack and stroke. People never really die with diabetes. They die because of diabetes. Well, I'm with it at the same time, I guess, but cardiovascular disease is the main thing that happens from a patient with diabetes. And where does it start? It starts with insulin resistance. Now, one reason, and the reason I know most, why insulin resistance is increased adipose tissue or fat. So when you look at some of the literature and why we believe adipose tissue causes some of the insulin resistance, is it's an more adipose tissue or fat tissue causes a more inflammatory response. We believe that could cause insulin. I say we, I'm not one of the researchers. They believe that could cause insulin resistance. Another reason I think is because you have insulin receptors on your cells, and the more adipose tissue you have, like I believe the receptors kind of get bent out of shape. And then how insulin is that key, it really doesn't recognize it. That's what I think. But another theory, it could be a couple other different things that they believe. But the biggest thing is people with more adipose tissue tend to be subject to insulin resistance. So it starts there. So if you got more adipose tissue, let's call that you have more insulin resistance. So what does that mean? Your body's resistant to what a normal amount of insulin that a healthy person would take to process the glucose that's from their food, or the sugar that's from their food, or the carbohydrate from their food into their body. So what happens then is you get insulin resistance. The body's like, hey, we're not getting all the energy we need. So then the body starts producing more insulin, right? We remember what we talk about insulin, and what is it? It's an anabolic hormone, right? It's actually helping feed our cells, and so when you're not in a fasted state, you're in a fed state, right? And insulin is typically at use in our fed state, not when we're fasting. So insulin's produced, boom, insulin starts to go up. What produces our insulins? They're called beta cells in our pancreas. Why are they in the pancreas? I don't know. God thought it would be funny to put them in the pancreas. There's no real rhyme or reason, honestly, why the beta cells are in the pancreas. There's not, which is funny. I like that joke. Anyway, so beta cells can't keep up. So they're turning on the floor to say, hey, we got to get more insulin because we don't have enough. Well, and really there is probably enough circulating insulin. That's why when patients get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, a lot of times they have high levels of circulating insulin because their insulin resistance is so high. If you keep that up for a while, prediabetes is classified by a fasting blood sugar of 100 to 125. So if you ever go get your labs done, you're over 100 to 125, you got diabetes, type 2. But the diagnostic criteria these days is that, or I think they like A1C a little better now, is an A1C of 6.5. But let's just roll back into reality here. Prediabetes, eventually it's type 2 diabetes. This is a vicious cycle. So how can you do it? Well, the arrows are up. Let's get this arrow instead of up. Let's get that arrow to go down. So let's get rid of some of that adipose tissue or fat. That's what we're talking about with the 90 days here. Okay, so that will help equalize the insulin that's needed, help give the beta cells a little bit of break, and then should help stave off that prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of education around insulin resistance and why it's bad. Okay, it is bad, it's not good. So the way you can get done with that is just get active, and that's just anything. Like I said, 30 minutes of activity. That's why I say it's a minimum, because it's not just because it's a goal, right? Hey, I want to be active. It really does have extra health benefits upon just burning the calories. Okay, it does help to mobilize this stuff, make sure your body stays healthy, and overall, we need to stay healthier. So thank you all very much for all your support. If you have any questions or comments, put them below, and I look forward to talking to you in future videos.